Sagrajatam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha Namaha Pankajanabhaya Namaha Pankajamaline Namaha Pankajanetraya Namaste Pankajangriya Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangho Pangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Praye Jantihi Sumedasa Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Ram Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai Hare Krishna. Thank you again. I welcome you from my heart and with garlands of gratitude to all of you. I'm so grateful to you for giving this wonderful chance to read Bhagavad Gita, to discuss Bhagavad Gita. So let's start from chapter 5, text number, read it till 12, verse number 12. So
13
anyone?
has to be started.
Yeah, 13 has to be started. You're absolutely correct. Thank you so much. So anyone remembers real quick what we discussed in the last session of chapter 5? We had 2 sessions for chapter 5. Anyone remembers what we read, discussed, learned? 1 or 2 points? Hare Krishna, am I audible or are you on mute?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, we can hear you. So, Prabhuji, we discussed, Arjuna was asking a question about, what is it the renunciation or, work in detachment? And he was also asking, karma yoga or, how, but easier than sannyasa. So he was confused and, renunciation for the work in the spirit, spirit of renunciation in that Prabhuji. And of course, thank you, Prabhuji.
Very nice. So this chapter opens up with a question. In the last chapter, we were discussing about that the culmination of work is transcendental knowledge. But then Arjuna got confused whether I should work or I should act in knowledge. And he misunderstood acting in knowledge means to give up work. And then he asked this question whether you want me to act or go to forest. So to take sannyas. So we discussed this point multiple times, and that's actually the essence of Bhagavad Gita. To work, I was thinking about this today morning. So Gita, what does Gita mean? Gita. So Gita gives the understanding of our identity so we can act in transcendental knowledge. So we can make all our activities in transcendental knowledge, in transcendental actions in relation to God. That's basically Bhagavad Gita in 1 or 2 lines. To know about our true identity, Jivara Swarupai Krishna Nityadas, and then just don't take sannyas, but rather do our duties in relation to Krishna. Not just doing our duties. That's not Bhagavad Gita. People say, just do your duties. Bhagavad Gita says, just do your duties. The duties in relation to Krishna. Renunciation not of the action, but renunciation in action will lead to transcendental reactions. And we discussed this point. Lipyante, the word lipyante comes twice, thrice in the last few verses. So One who is acting on the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga will not be affected by the results. Correct? You remember that discussion? Yes, Anita Mataji, you want to share a point?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The point I wanted to share from last class was that the one who sees analytical study and devotional service on the same level, they see the things as they are.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Because both will lead to transcendental knowledge. And one of the definitions of spirituality is to see things in their true perspective, is one of the definitions of spirituality. Like there is a pencil, it has a specific purpose, it's for a specific thing. Then there's a phone, there's a mouse, it has a specific purpose. So similarly, our body also has a specific purpose, and we will today learn what that specific purpose is. So with that background, the acronym is STEP. The S stands for the first 12 verses, stay in the world, but not of the world. Be like a lotus, we discussed that. A lotus stays in the dirt, but does not get affected by the dirt. It has a layer. Similarly, devotees have a layer, even though they may be in the material world, even though they may be acting like an ordinary grihastha would act. They have wife, husband, children, job, business. They also go to grocery store. They have a car. They have a home. They pay the bills. They pay the mortgage. Like all the activities which an ordinary person would also be doing. But there is big difference. One is going to just get the fruits of their reactions, good or bad, and continue to be in the cycle of birth and death. And the other person who's acting, who's using all those things, the grocery, the home, the car, the job, the family, kids, children, etc., etc., in relation to Krishna, that person will go back home, back to God. It will not be affected by the cycle of birth and death. So with that, let's read text 13. Would someone like to read this one? So now we are in the next letter of the acronym, which is T, okay, which means three doers. So today we'll learn about three doers till text 13 to 16, and then we'll go to E also. Yes.
Can I?
Yes, Aparna Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Sarve karmani manasa sanyasta sukham vasi navadvara pura dehi navare kurvan na karyan. Translation: when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all actions, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, the material world, neither working nor causing work to be done.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna,
much.
back to you.
Thank you so much. This body is referred to as the city of 9 gates. There are 9 gates: the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus. So these are the 9 gates, right? Two, 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 two at the bottom, and one. So 9 gates, mouth. Everyone got it? This is why it's called the city of 9 gates. It also comes in chapter or later chapters also, chapter 13, 14 also. Krishna mentions about the city of 9 gates. There's a story of in Bhagavatam also of Puranjana, where Narad Muni tells about an allegorical story, in a nice way, telling about there was a king who was attached to the city of 9 gates. Basically, that's us, right? And then Puranjana realized, well, you're talking about me, looks like. That's a great way to tell a story, and because everyone likes to hear story, but he said, well, I'm just telling you about story of a king, and that king happened to be his own self. But actually, that story is for all of us. So how we can happily reside in the city of 9 gates is Prabhupada is giving a nice formula here. Let's read this wonderful translation, the purport, portion of it. The soul, although subjecting himself to the conditions of the body, can be beyond those conditions if he so desires. Owning only to forgetfulness of his superior nature, he identifies with the material body and therefore suffers. By Krishna consciousness, he can revive his real position and thus come out of his embodiment. Hare Krishna. So as we were talking about, understanding about true identity. The Jiva is Tathastha Shakti, or the marginal potency of the Lord. That means it's in the margin, means, it's has two options. One, to serve the superior nature, Krishna, in internal energy, and one to serve the external energy, serving the senses. Now, depending upon whom we serve, our propensities will go in that direction and our next destination will be paved accordingly. So, but because of forgetfulness, we serve the body and things in relation to body. And that leads to what? Suffering. This is the theme of today's discussion. When we serve Krishna and his, things in relation to Krishna, we'll get true happiness. When we serve body, sense gratification, selfishly, sense the demands of the senses, then all we'll get is suffering. And why does one do so? Because of forgetfulness. And how can we overcome this forgetfulness? By reading Bhagavad Gita, by taking shelter of bona fide Guru. So then one can be happily if one overcomes this forgetfulness, if one overcomes this nescience by the process of knowledge. Therefore, a Krishna conscious person is happy, is free from both the outer and the inner activities of material body. We discussed this last time also, if you remember, the story of Prahlad, although he is acting but still not acting. You remember that? Mera aapa ki kripa se sab kaam ho raha hai, karte ho tum kanaiya mera naam. Lord, you are acting everything. Prahlad Maharaj was always in the transcendental state. He was eating, sleeping, etc., etc. But he always, kind of detached. So this is the state of a pure, self-realized soul. There are 4 stages actually of consciousness. One, the lowest stage is called Jagriti. Or let's not call it the lowest. There are 4 stages. Jagriti, like all of us are in the Jagriti avastha. I hope all of you are awake, right? Everyone awake? I see the cameras are on, so those I can vouch for, they're awake, at least physically. So the gross body is active, correct? Gross body made up of these earth, water. And the subtle body is active. I hope we are hearing, we're processing with our mind and intelligence what we are hearing. And then the next state is Swapna state. Swapna means dream. Now what happens in the dream? The gross body is active? No, the gross body is not active. Correct? The subtle body, is it active? Yes or no? It's active, right? Because then that's why we are dreaming, right? One thinks that I am a tiger, one thinks I am a king, one thinks I am the prime minister. This mind and process is working. And there's a state called Sushupti, which the modern day they call it as deep sleep. In the deep sleep, even the subtle body is not active. But then beyond these stages is the state of Samadhi actually. In that state, a person is completely Krishna conscious and free from the both outer and the inner activities of the material body, because everything one is working for the Supreme Lord. So one is not affected by these modes internally, and one is not affected by the results of the modes or the actions, because one is completely working for the pleasure of one. Karmani ekam tasya devasya seva. There's only one work he or she does to serve the Supreme Lord. Text 14. Let's go to text 14. Who would like to read this one? Yes, Karina Mataji.
Hare Krishna Dandava Pranam. Na karitvam na karmani lakshya sarajati prabhu na karma pala samyogam swabhavastu pravartate. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The embodied spirit, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor he induce.
Nor does he.
nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Let's read a few lines from the purport. So, the living entity living in such a condition, conditional atmosphere, living in such a conditional atmosphere, material conditioning, one suffers the results of activities of the body, identifying himself in ignorance with the body. So we discussed that, right? What is Gita? To understand our true identity, that is Krishna's servant. But until we don't understand that, how will we act on it? So, true understanding, I am the spirit soul, which is the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. It is ignorance acquired from the time immemorial that is the cause of bodily suffering and distress. From time immemorial, we have been moving around in this world. Nana yoni sada fire. We have taken the species of cat, dog, bat, whale, Indian, American, Westerner, white, yellow, black, moved up and down. Brahma, Bhuvana, Loka. So many species we have moved up and down in the material world, in the 14 planetary systems. But we have not done one thing. What? We have always identified ourselves with body. That's the reason of suffering and distress. As soon as the living entity becomes aloof from the activities of the body, he becomes free from the reactions as well. That means identification of one's true self. The waves of the ocean are tossing him up and down. Kabe habo dubu bhai, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Sometimes up, sometimes down. Sometimes in Satyaloka, sometimes in Maharloka, Pataloka, Bhuloka, Bhavaloka. We're all moved so many times in this world. We don't know this universe, that universe. What is the best solution? To get out of this water, to get out of this water of suffering. Samsara dava nalalida loka. This material world is an ocean of suffering. Kali doshe nidhirajan. The world is an ocean of suffering. And there's a Narottam Thakur also says that Podechi bhava tufani nahika nistara. I'm caught up in this hurricane, this violent forest fire. Somewhere there are forest fires going on. Somewhere there is pandemic going on. Somewhere there is excessive rains going on. We don't have to, scriptures talk about the reality. This is what is the reality going on in this world, right? So many people are dying and getting disease and suffering. Why? Because of being caught up in this material world. And why are we caught up in this material world? Because of lack of our true identity. So what's the best solution to get out of the water of suffering? By transcendental Krishna consciousness. That alone will save us from all the turmoil. So we're talking about the three doers. Let's read 15 and 16 also, and then we will talk about the three doers. Yes, who would lead the next verse? 15? Yeah, you can raise your hand and keep it raised until your turn comes. So it's easy for me and easy for you the flow goes faster rather than me asking after every shloka. If you would like to read, you can raise your hand and keep it raised until your turn comes. Yes, Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Nadate kasya chid papam na chaiva sukritam vibhu ajnanan vritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantava. Translation. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here, let's read the 18th also. Sorry, which is the next verse, 16. Let's read 16 also, and then we will together talk about the three doers. Okay, let's read the 16. Yes, Sudhir Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, then Pranam, and Krishna Shri Prabhupada. Jnanena tu tad ajnanam esam nasitam atmana tesam aditya vajnanam prakashayati tatparam. Translation by Stephen P.C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When, however, one is enlightened with the knowledge by which nuisance is nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Sudhir Prabhu and Nitya Mataji for reading these verses. So basically here we are talking about the three doers. There are three doers. What are the three doers? Let's study from this slide. It kind of explains this process very nicely. So the one doer is soul. Okay. The one doer is super soul and one doer is material nature. And that's the T in the step. The S was stay in the world but not of this world. The T stands for text 12 to 13 to 17, the three doers. So the 13 to 16, sorry. The soul desires, the super soul sanctions, and the material nature fulfills that, or Prakriti fulfills or makes arrangement to fulfill that desire if the Lord sanctions it. Now, a nice way to understand this phenomena is by the example of a passenger going in a taxi. Let's say you are going from Jackson to Nashville. Okay. Because we have Asha Mataji joining from Nashville. So thank you. I took that example. Or maybe you're in Jackson today. Or maybe you took the taxi today. So let's take that example. So what happens? The passenger desires, right? I want to go from A to B. I want to go from Jackson to Tennessee. Jackson to Nashville. So who is the desirer? The passenger, right? Correct? Referring to the soul here. Now, the taxi driver kind of accepts that, okay, I sanction it, I sanction your desire, and I'll take you. Okay, I will arrange for that. So with the medium of car, referring to Prakriti here, the desire is fulfilled. Right? Let's go back to this slide again. So the passenger is desiring, the taxi driver sanctions, okay, I accept it. Let's go. And the car makes arrangement to fulfill the desire of the passenger. Right? So the point here is living entity is not the ultimate doer, right? But can we say, well, God is the ultimate doer? Then if God is the ultimate doer, then why should I suffer? A thief can say in the court, I didn't do anything. The ultimate doer is God, correct? Then why are you putting me behind the jails? So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, Bhagavan, is the ultimate controller of all activities. Yes, absolutely. There is no doubt in that. Without his sanction, without his permission, nothing can move, not even a blade of grass. But he does not interfere with our desires. He is not the initiator. Initiators are who? The jiva. The jiva desires. Like right now, I have the desire, I can watch a movie, I can read Bhagavad Gita, I can go to a bar, I can go to a casino, I can go to a library, I can go to a park. Well, I can desire all these things. But if the sanction is not there, something can happen on the way also, correct? But if the sanction is there, then it will manifest through the medium of nature. Like I may use my car or I can use my feet to walk. But if the law does not permit that, then anything can happen any moment, right? So the word used is Vibhu. Vibhu referring to the Supreme Lord. Anu refers to the Jiva, the tiny soul. Vibhu refers to the super soul. The definition of Bhagavan is given here. So who is Bhagavan? Has Shad Aishwarya, possessor of all knowledge, all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, and all renunciation. Okay, and we have discussed this multiple times. So all knowledge, strength, beauty, fame, renunciation, and strength. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for a living entity. Very important. Because he's everyone's well-wisher. He's like a father, like a friend, like a mother. Krishna Pita, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pranadhan. He does not desire bad for anyone. He always desires good. But the living entity bewildered by ignorance desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby the chain of action and reaction begins. So who begins the chain? The living entity. Who is the initiator, or who is the main culprit of being in a certain situation? Is actually the living entity. The Lord is just fulfilling that desire. The Lord is actually the constant companion. It's mentioned here. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity. Even if next life I am born as an ant, the Lord will accompany. Will my wife accompany? Will my father, mother, friend, son, daughter, relatives, or wealth or degrees accompany me? No, the Lord will accompany. So He's our true friend. Ami bina bandhu ar kya chetomar, Lord Gauranga says. Who could be a more better well-wisher? He's always accompanying us, and He can understand the desires. Like the two birds sitting on the tree, we have discussed this example. One is the doer bird, okay? This bird is always doing things, and this is a watching bird. What happens? This bird has turned the face away from the watching bird. Krishna bholi se jiva nadir bahirmukh ate maya tare de samsara dukh. When we turn face away from Krishna, then dukkha will come. Now, who's the cause of dukkha? Turning the jiva, turning away, the desiring things which are not conducive to our true happiness. Then, ate maya tare de samsara dukh. So, well, as you desire, so shall you reap. So then the maya or material nature will give dukkha because you made the bad choice. Correct? If if I put my hand in the fire, then it will get burnt. Right? It's my desire. I had the free will. There is limited free will to put the hand in the fire or not. But if I choose to put, then I have to suffer the consequences. So multiple ways we can understand this point. The point is the Lord is always there. And He's always there accompanying us. A soul, as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. So the Lord is very, very merciful. The Lord fulfills the desires as He deserves. Man proposes, God disposes. Desire is the form of conditioning for the living entity. So the desires. Talking a lot about desires because the Jiva desires. Jiva has the choice to desire. I have the choice to, the individual is not therefore omnipotent. Individual means Jiva. So, Anu, not omnipotent. Krishna is omnipotent. The Lord, however, can fulfill all the desires, and the Lord being neutral to everyone, like a judge. A judge will sometimes reward someone, a bravery award for someone who does good thing, and that same judge would give life sentence to someone who does the wrong thing. Now, is the judge partial? A less intelligent person will say, oh, the judge is partial, but the judge is neutral. The judge is giving just the fruit of the desires of those people. Does not interfere. The judge does not interfere. The law does not interfere between the desires. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care. This is the next point, but let's discuss this point. The point is, if we desire, okay, eat, 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 life is meant to enjoy, eat. Okay, next body. Okay, Lord said, well, I gave you this human chance, which is very, very rare. Durlabha manusha deha. But human life is not just meant for eating, it's meant for a special purpose. But if you want just a body to eat, 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 then take an elephant body. Just keep eating. If someone says, well, I just want to sleep, 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 10 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours, sleep, sleep. God will say, better you sleep for 6 months, like Kumbhakarna. Polar bear body. If someone says, well, I just want to be in water 5 hours a day, I just want to be in water. I said, okay, stay 24 hours in water, get the fish body. Then someone said, I don't want to wear proper clothes, I want to expose my body. No, because people think that looks more attractive. So nowadays it's contradicted. The shorter the clothes, the more expensive it is. So then Krishna will say, well, trees don't wear clothes, then you'll get the body of a tree. Then you can wear no clothes. So basically the Lord is very merciful. Whatever we desire, the Lord will arrange, sanction it. If he permits, God, man proposes, God disposes. If he permits, and he won't interfere with the free will. So he sanctions, and through the material nature, it's the arrangement is made. Like the next body, one will get if someone wants to eat a lot of flesh, well, the human body is not meant to eat flesh. But if you really desire, you're using this body to eat just flesh, that's in your consciousness. That will be the end of your life, and then that will be the antakale chamami vasmaran muktva karevaram. You'll think about that only. And guess what? You'll get the body of a dog or a lion or some carnivorous animals who like to eat flesh. So Lord has a lot of garments. Like some people go to a garment shop, they want this garment. Oh, I want polo shirt. I want round neck shirt. I want striped shirt. I want check shirt. Lot of garments, right? So Krishna's garment shop has 8.4 million species. A lot to choose from, right? And actually, it's a garment. Can anyone tell a verse from Bhagavad Gita which tells that body is like a garment? Anyone knows a verse from Gita which tells body is like a garment?
Dehinosmin yatha dehe.
Quite close. Actually, the next verse, I think, after this is one sansijirna niyatha vihaya. So, as the old person, when the clothes are worn out, the person wears fresh clothes. Similarly, when the body is worn out, a new body is given based on desires. And therefore, those desires, whatever at the end one is thinking of, one will get that. And what will one think of at the end? What one has been doing and thinking throughout the life. Very simple. It's not that I can desire, oh, I want to be as a devotee, I want to go back home. Whole life I will do everything opposite to Krishna consciousness, and then the last breath I will think of Krishna. No, one will not think of, even if one may go to Vrindavan, one will think of whatever one has been doing throughout the life. So very nice point here. So therefore, the embodied soul is, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Very important point. So therefore, one should not blame God. One should not blame nature, right? Some people say nature is not, or demigod. They say acts of gods, cyclones, calamity. They say these are acts of God. They're not acts of God. They are acts. The law, the material nature is just an instrument because of the bad desires of time immemorial to avoid Krishna. So these are the three doers that we discussed. And now the point is, okay, how to get to the right point. How to get to the right point? Then Krishna mentions through the process of true knowledge. Our nescience can be destroyed. Therefore, we sing this verse every day. Om Agyana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Agyan Timirandha, one who destroys the ignorance of nescience. And this knowledge is like sun. So when the sun is there, when Guru is there, when Krishna is there, then there can be no darkness. Correct? But if one tries to forget Krishna, then it will lead to bewilderment. So therefore, perfection of knowledge, perfect knowledge is to surrender when one surrenders to Krishna. Okay, it will come later also. And how, so a Krishna conscious person, everything is revealed. How? Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashito, we just read. One who takes full shelter of a bona fide guru. Therefore, one has to seek out such a bona fide spiritual master. Under him, learn what is Krishna consciousness. For Krishna consciousness will certainly drive away all the nescience as the sun drives away darkness. The Bhagavad Gita is available. There are bona fide gurus available. There are the temples which are like the hospitals for the souls available. But how many people really take benefit of those? Very few, very insignificant. So if one takes benefit of these, then the darkness of ignorance will be gone and one will understand things in the true perspective and take to the process of Bhakti Yoga. And then we'll be happy because that's real identity. Identity with the individuality in spiritual life is real knowledge. So real knowledge means to understand who am I, what is my relationship with God, what is the goal of life. Real knowledge is not to become a physics professor. Well, no offense to physics professor. That's material knowledge, or a maths teacher, or getting doctor's degree, or master's degree, or engineering degree. They may be required for this, to get some money to run our, family and home and whatever. But that is not real knowledge. Real knowledge is to understand the science of bhakti. Otherwise, one could be a millionaire, one could be a billionaire. But without Krishna consciousness, what will happen? The desire would be how to get more money, or more money, more money. Next life, what may happen? One could be born as an ant on a pile of gold, right? One could be an ant on the pile of gold because Hiranyakashipu, attachment to gold, attachment to whatever material things. Next life, the same consciousness will be there, and one could, that could be the outcome. In this life, one could be a billionaire, millionaire. Next life, one could be an ant, one could be a beggar. So, intelligent person thinks, what is the true meaning. So, just to summarize the three doers, the soul and the super soul, the difference. The soul is eternal, super soul is also eternal. Okay, the soul is Sachidananda, but suffers when covered with Maya. Very important. The soul gets, because of his being anu in nature, tiny in nature, may get covered like an iron, a piece of iron. Can it get covered with rust? Right? It can get covered with rust, absolutely. So, will it lose its magnetism? It will temporarily lose, correct? Or it will temporarily forget, right? But when the same iron is shaved off or filed, right, then the dormant magnetism is still present. The natural attraction towards Krishna is still present. It will attract to the Supreme Lord. When the process of Chetodarpana Marjana, the process of Bhakti Yoga, Shravanam, Kirtanam acts, we revive our true consciousness and then be blissful again. So we are by nature Sachidananda, Anandamayo Bhyasat. But the super soul is always blissful. He doesn't get covered. He's Paramatma. Cognizant of his own body, right? We know what I'm thinking right now. We know what I plan to do after this, right? Little bit cognizant, right? We don't know everything. Can anyone tell, what my heart is beating at this point, or what your heart is rate is beating at this point. We can't tell, right? We need some instruments maybe, or the more, deeper movements, and we don't know fully about just our body itself, what to speak of other bodies. But the Supreme Lord knows. Anu, Vibhu, atomic, infinitesimal, infinite, minute independence to desire, but is dependent on the Lord to fulfill the desires, right? But Krishna is Abhigya Swarat. He's not dependent on anyone. Okay, so that's some points to read. Let's read the next one, text number 18. So now we come to ST. Stay in the world, not of this world. The three doers we discussed. What are the three doers? Who will tell? Yes, Lakshay.
Soul, super soul, and material nature.
And what's the relation between them?
Soul
Desires.
desires to as for desires to the super soul, and the super soul gives
Sanctions. Yeah.
sanctions it to them with material nature, and material nature fulfills the desire.
Fulfills. Very nice. Or makes arrangement. Yes. Who has not yet got a chance to read, you can read. Lakshya, did you read?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Tad buddhayas, tad atmanas, tan nishtas, tad parayana, gachanti apunar avritam nana nirduta kalmasa. Translation. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhu. So very nice. So one will be cleansed. How? By engaging our mind, our intelligence on the Supreme Lord. Chetudarpanamarjanam, by the process of sadhana bhakti, one will get to this pure state. One get to the path of ultimate liberation, going back home, back to Godhead. And all the nescience will be destroyed. So we discussed all those points. So one very important line here, one whose mind, intelligence, faith, and refuge is always in Krishna, or in other words, who is fully in Krishna consciousness, is undoubtedly washed clean of all misgivings and is perfect in knowledge in everything concerning transcendence. The best process basically is the process of Bhakti Yoga, which Krishna is Prabhupada is hinting again and again, and we will read from chapter 7 in more details as well. So let's read the very important verse. This is in the memory verses also for those, I guess, who are learning the 50 verses. Yes, Sheetal Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Sunichaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. Translation. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So a true devotee does not distinguish between castes and species, right? Some people, we have there are 8.4 million species out there. This is just an example to name a few species. The Brahmana, Vidya Vinay Sampanna, Vidya Dadati Vinayam. So one who has true knowledge, again, true knowledge, someone could have a PhD, but have a lot of hatred towards people from a certain caste, right? Someone could have a very high profile in the material world, a CEO or something, but hate people of a certain skin or a certain background or certain species or certain animal also, right? Some people nowadays talk about, okay, we have to, integrity and diversity, and even in management circles, they talk a lot about diversity, but this is real diversity. They, even in the like good companies, they say, well, people from different background, everyone should be dealt with respect. And that's, where is it coming from? Coming from Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita goes much beyond it. Bhagavad Gita is not just talking about humans, that all humans should be dealt with respect with. Bhagavad Gita is talking about even animals also. Vidya Vinay Sampanne, one who has true knowledge, one is truly humble. We have Vinay Prabhu, Gita Mataji's good husband. Humble. Vinay means humble. Sampanne, one who has these qualities. Brahmana, Gavi, cow, Hastya, elephant, Shuni, Chayava, Shopakecha. A dog or even a dog eater, like Chandala, the people who eat dog. We should not have hatred. Hate the sin, not the sinner. Right? We may not approve of that act of dog eating, but that does not mean we hate those people. That's not what Bhagavad Gita is teaching. When Srila Prabhupada came to United States, his audience, they were people from all types of background. They were drug addicts. They were doing all sorts of wrong things. But Prabhupada saw the spirit soul in every being. Prabhupada exemplified this verse and made a home where the whole world can live peacefully. You go to ISKCON temples, you will find people from all backgrounds, rich, poor, young, old, male, females, students, doctors, engineers, lawyers, daily workers, and white, yellow, black, brown, orange, purple, whatever the color of skin is, whatever the color of hair is, everyone is welcome, right? Even the dogs joined the Sankirtan party of Shivananda Sain. Even Lord Chaitanya fed to the dog, and the dog was in ecstasy. So this is real, actually, United Nations, that everyone is a child of God. This is true knowledge. So we should not harm others for our selfish needs. We should not develop hatred towards others. We should not cause disturbance to others for our self pleasure. Some people have a lot of love towards dog. No offense to them, all glories. But the same person would kill other animals like chickens, fishes, cows. Is that truly, love? No, that's not true love. So that's very a selfish form of, because I like it, so I love. The moment my purpose is done, who cares? But this is about real United Nations, real consciousness, to see everyone with equal vision. That means to see that everyone is a child of God, and its covering is different. Someone may be in the covering of a dog, someone may be in the covering of a human, a male, a female. This is not our true self. It's a fundamental understanding of Bhagavad Gita that I am the spirit soul. But the point is, time immemorial, the attachment is so strong. Someone will say, well, I am a soul, but I am a Punjabi soul, or I am a Gujarati soul, or I am a Telugu soul, or I am an Indian soul. All these are designations, but the attachment is so deep. So we should see things in the true perspective and be kind to others. That does not mean we go and embrace a cobra. Hey, you are also son of God. I am also son of God. We are brothers. Now we'll embrace each other. No, we have to respect the bodily differences, but be respectful. That means not cause harm, unnecessary harm to anyone. Same with a tiger. It's not that, okay, tiger, you're a child of God. I'm child of God. We are brothers. Now we'll embrace each other. No, that's not what Bhagavad Gita is telling. So this is to see with equal vision, and that's the E. of step, equal vision. Okay. Number 19. Anyone wants to read who has not yet read? Yes, Vedi.
Hare Krishna. Iheva terjita sargo yesam samyestitam mana nirdosam hi samam brahma tasmad brahma nitestita. Translation. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So here some of the symptoms of self-realized soul are mentioned. And this point of equanimity is mentioned in like tens of verses of Bhagavad Gita, practically in every chapter. Nirdvanda, free from duality. Stam stitikshva, tolerate the urges, tolerate the heat and cold. Then one who is harsha shoka, the equanimity in joy and sadness. Practically every chapter mentions about being equipoised, being equipoised. In the Bhagavad Gita, also in Bhagavatam, we see practical examples of great personalities who were equipoised, who were at this level actually. So, equanimity of mind, equanimity of urges, and that person has already conquered that. Actually, that person is living in this body, but not of this body. What's the famous verse? Ihayasya harirdasya karmana manasagira nikhilasva piyavastastu nikhilasta piyavastastu brahma kalpate. I'm forgetting the last line, but the translation is that if one is engaging one's body, mind, and words completely in the service of the Supreme Lord, that person is Jivan Mukta Sauchate, Jivan Mukta, liberated even in this body. So that person is not covered with the bodily designation. That person sees with equal vision. That person is acting on the platform of Krishna consciousness, has no attraction or hatred, because why should we hate anyone? Why should we be unnecessarily attached to anyone? Everything is, we just have to do our part in a selfless way to serve Krishna. So let's see the next verse, text 20. Yes, who wants to read? Yes, Sampada Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Na parisyet priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamuto brahma vid brahmani sthita. Translation. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Again, the process of being equipoised is shared here. Do not be too happy when things are going as per our plan, and not be too remorse, right? And how will that happen? Prabhupada is sharing. The first symptom is that one is not illusioned by the false identification. Because if we think we are the body, then we will be troubled by the body and things in relation to body. Or someone lost his job, then they commit suicide, right? Or someone says angry word to someone, and then they are like, they are like 10 times more angry, and then they do something weird. People, this is real stories. People are killing each other over a small quarrel of in US, you may have seen this. Like some people discard their old mattress, right? You have seen sometimes outside the home where they just keep it and the waste management collects it, or they're supposed to collect it. So this person, it's a real story. They discarded their old mattress. It was lying outside the home. The neighbor didn't like it because maybe a few inches of the mattress were on his side of the building or grass, whatever. And he was furiated about it. And the verbal fight got into a physical fight and the gun fight, and one of them killed the other. Why? A mattress was few inches on the side of the neighbor. This is a real story. I'm not cooking this stuff up. There are so many such stories. In New York recently, this couple who are mental health psychiatrists, motivational speakers, uplifting others. Oh, you are supposed to be happy. You this, uplifting other. They both committed suicide. Lack of Krishna consciousness, artificial, with all respects to everyone, we are not judging anyone. The point is, we try to understand that life, what is the true reality of life. And that's the first thing. The first symptom is to not be illusioned by the false identification. His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj says we should not take things of this body too seriously. Wealth or no wealth, disease or no disease, things will always go up and down in the world. Sometimes one may be a king, one could be a pauper, one could be healthy, one could get disease, one could be very famous, one could get defaming. So one should not take all those things up and down, the dualities of life, heat and cold. Rather, one should focus on one's connection. He knows perfectly well that he is not the body. Very important. That's the first lesson. Then only we'll be able to come to the sameness or equipoised. Sthira buddhi will only come when one has the understanding of one's true identity. So one will not be joyful in achieving something, nor will lament in losing anything. Because if it's related to the body, okay, I didn't get a promotion, that's fine. I tried my best. Okay, I didn't get this job, that's fine. Okay, I lost my job, that's fine. Maybe Krishna's arrangement was that maybe I'll get better one. Maybe he wants me to be like this, that's fine. Ultimately, people don't die of hunger, people die of overeating. More people are dying of mental problems than physical problems. So the point is identification with the true self. Then one will come to sthira buddhi. Such steadiness is Krishna consciousness, steady consciousness, not bewildered. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Let's read 21. Anyone? Yes, Avani.
Hare Krishna. Bhaya Sparshev Ashakt Atma Vindati Atmani Yat Sukham Sabrama Yoga Yuktatma Sukham Aksayam Ashnute. Translation: such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So, material sense pleasure, that pure soul, pure Krishna conscious person is not attracted. What is he attracted to? Enjoys unlimited spiritual happiness, focusing on the Supreme Lord. And very, very nice verse, and this will be the last for today, text 22. Who has not yet read and really, really wanting to read? Okay, I'll read. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkhayonev evate adiyantavanta konteya nateshu ramate buddha. We'll spend some time on this verse. This is a very important verse. Any intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to the contact with the material desires or material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Wonderful, right? So we just discussed that an intelligent person who has sthira buddhi, who is attached to the higher, is not attached to the pleasures of these senses. Like the eyes want to see something nice, movies, they're not nice, but they appear to be nice because of the conditioned state, or songs and whatnots, and serials and stuff, video games and stuff. Same, anything in connection to the senses. Tongue wants to eat, similarly ears. But the pleasures, one thinks one will get pleasure, right? That's why we do. That's why we try to do. That's why one tries to do, right? Is anyone doing anything which they know they will, or anyone voluntarily does something which they know that will harm them? Will anyone do voluntarily anything which you know that it will harm you or it will not give you happiness? No one does that, right? So what we feel that these things, the samsparshaja bhoga, the pleasure of the senses will give us what? Will give us what? Happiness, correct? Or pleasure. But what does Bhagavad Gita say? Bhagavad Gita says they are dukkha yoni. They are the source of dukkha, right? Are you able to hear me? Okay, so they are the source of dukkha, the sources of misery. Adi and Anta. They have a beginning and then they have an end, right? How many of you have experienced this, right? Talk about a new car. You feel that, oh, it will give me a lot of happiness. And then after a few days, that's gone. Tiny pleasure. Or a new video game, or a new serial, or a new restaurant, or a new job, or new this, new home, new anything which we feel will give pleasure. And ultimately, that may become a cause of suffering, actually. It not may, it will become, because that's the Bhagavad Gita. It's like an itching. The itch, itch is there, correct? One wants to, or like a wound is there. And when the wound is kind of healing, it itches, correct? Have you experienced that? It itches. And we feel if we itch it, we'll feel happy, correct? But the more we itch, the more it irritates and the more we suffer, correct? The same is with the sense pleasures. So what we have to do, we have to tolerate them. Na teshu ramate buddha. Buddha, intelligent people, usme raman nahi karte. They don't do raman. Raman means they don't take pleasures in this. We have already learned in the previous word, they take pleasure in the spiritual happiness. The pleasures of the body are very low graded pleasures. Eating, sleeping, mating, etc. They are available, as Prabhupada is actually mentioning in this purport. Nayam deho deha bhajam nirloki kashtan kaman arhate vit bhujam. Vit bhuja, jo, look, those who eat stools, like pigs, they eat stools, right? You may have not seen in US, but in India things are more clear. So you may see them actually on the roads. They are eating stool. Tapo Divyam, Rishabdev is telling in Canto 5, Chapter 5, my dear sons, there is no reason to work very hard for the pleasures. While in this human life, such pleasures are available to dogs and hogs. Hogs also have, pleasures of sleeping, eating. They like stool. We may like aloo paratha or pakoda, samosa, whatever, gulab jamun. They like stool, right? The pleasure derived is same. One may sleep in a 7-star hotel and the dog will sleep on the road. The pleasure is same. Eating, sleeping, aha nidra bhai maithunam cha. So rather you should go for tapa, divya tapa, divine penance, and be purified, because that's the goal of real human form of life. Real goal of human form of life is not to take part in these pleasures. We have already done so many times and life species, time immemorial, we have all been doing is eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But this rare human life is meant for a higher purpose. Rishabdev, Krishna's incarnation, is telling himself to his children, basically to all of us. And again in Bhagavad Gita, telling to all of us, devotees are not fools who give up these pleasures. They are the most intelligent because they know I am ready to sacrifice a temporary thing for a real gain. And what is that real gain? Back home, back to Godhead. So is that the goal of life? To take part in the things which in animals and dogs and hogs and cats and anyone can do? No, that's not the goal of life. The more one is addicted, the more one is entrapped. So we have to say no, and we learn that next time. We have to say no to those things which are not conducive for our bhakti. And the more we say no, the more our spiritual strength will increase. And the more our spiritual strength will increase, the more we will have the ability to say no. It's like the good dog and the bad dog. When we feed the good dog more by reading Bhagavad Gita, by chanting, by taking Krishna Prasad, etc., we will have ability to say no to all these bodily pleasures. And it could be different for different. For a child, it could be the pleasures of video games. For an adult, it could be pleasures of meat eating or gambling or opposite sex, etc. Or cars or for someone it could be watching TV. For someone it could be hearing something, hours and hours, wasting our precious time, which is not conducive. For someone it could be watching something. For someone it could be something else. We have to see, is it aligned with Krishna? If not, we have to learn to say no, tolerate the urges, which will come later. Because human life is not really meant for this. And devotees are very intelligent. They take pleasures in the unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in chapter 10, text 9. What is chapter 10, text 9? Who will say? You have exams, some of you. Some of you have already learned. Tell Avani.
Is it Machita Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Katayantascha Mam Nityam Tushanti Cha Ramanti Cha?
Very good. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. Connected with Raman. They take pleasure in Machata Madgata Prana. In discussing about me, in conversing about me, in hearing my name form qualities. They take great pleasure in hearing Krishna consciousness. Like all of you, I hope you're relishing the Bhagavad Gita because it is the word of the God. So the intelligent people don't take pleasure in the pleasures of the senses. They take pleasure in Tushyanti Charamanti Cha Machita Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam. They discuss Bodhayanta Kathayantascha Mam Nityam. In my katha, my name form qualities, they take great pleasure. Even in the story of Dhruv Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj says this. I'll just read the translation in the interest of time. My Lord, the transcendental bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet or hearing about you, your glories from pure devotees is so unlimited that it is far beyond the stage of Brahmananda, wherein one thinks of himself merged in the impersonal Brahman as one with the Supreme. Since Brahmananda is also defeated by the transcendental bliss derived from devotional service, then what to speak of temporary blissfulness of... Yeah, please keep yourself on mute unless there is a question or something. What to speak of temporary blissfulness of elevating oneself to heavenly planets, which is ended by this separating sword of time. Although one may be elevated to the heavenly planets, he falls down in the due course of time. Hare Krishna. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartina Arjuna. Right? We discussed that. And some of you have made such nice models also. So let's discuss this point. There are three types of happiness. One is called Jadananda. In this Jad Jagat, this is called the dead material world. Is there happiness? What do you think? Is there happiness in this material world? No.
Temporary happiness. Temporary, Prabhuji.
Yeah, so-called happiness.
Yeah.
It appears it is happiness, it is so-called happiness. And we just read, what do you think? Is the so-called happiness more in this world or compared to Indraloka or in the Bhuloka? Where is it more, the so-called happiness? In the Indraloka, right? It's higher. The Nandakan gardens, they don't get disease, they have this special beverages, the apsaras are so beautiful, right? So the point is the so-called happiness, which is higher in the upper planets, it will also end with the sword of time, correct?
Temporary.
So beyond the Jadananda is Brahmananda. As Prahlad Maharaj is telling. Brahmananda is the pleasure of merging with the impersonal effulgence, the impersonal liberation. But Prahlad Maharaj is saying, sorry, Dhruv Maharaj is saying here, but the real pleasure, the real happiness is the pleasure, the bliss derived from meditating upon your lotus feet and hearing about your glories from your pure devotees. It's unlimited. Machchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayanta shivam nitya tushyanti charamanti cha. Bhagavad Gita also 9.2 Rajvidya Rajaguyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyakshavagam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This is the real sukha, it's the real happiness. So intelligent people take pleasure in these pleasures, in Krishna consciousness. It's the real happiness, not the tiny so-called pleasures which will just fade away with time. So you have to learn to say no to the so-called pleasures, regulate those, make them Krishna conscious. And how we'll do that? The more Krishna consciousness activities we'll do, then give it like higher taste, which will come. Higher taste. Who knows the verse of higher taste? You have to take the higher taste.
Bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suratam sarvabhutanam atmanam shantim nachati.
It's connected, but there's one verse in chapter 2. I think Natasha Mataji wants to tell.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. I think it is Vishya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dena Rasvarjam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nivartate.
Wonderful. What's the number?
2.57, I believe.
I think it's 57 or 58.
2.59.
59? Yeah, 59.
Yes, that's
Good.
right.
So what is the point? Vishya Vinivartanti. The pleasure derived from this Vishya or sense gratification is not the real pleasure. The pleasure derived from Krishna consciousness is the higher taste. So intelligent people take pleasure in those things. The earlier we understand this, the more we saturate ourselves with spiritual knowledge, the easier we'll be able to say no. And strength comes from saying no, actually, right? How many of you have felt this? That when we kind of give in to our senses, we may feel short-term happiness and later we will feel guilty, regretful, right? But when we say no to the bodily demands, which are not conducive for Krishna, then we feel happy. Have you felt that? When we say no to the things which are not good for us, we feel happy. But rather when we say yes and think it will give me short-term pleasure, like watching a movie which is not conducive or watching some video game, it will not give a real happiness. Now, I want to kind of give a modern perspective also to this because people like modern things more. This is something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You may have studied in your school, college, somewhere, right? This is taught actually in multiple, psychology and multiple classes actually. And in management also they teach. So even over there, of course, it's a totally material angle, but ultimately everything comes from Krishna. So what are they saying? There are 5 basically needs. The basic needs, the psychological, the physiological needs, food, water, rest, etc. They are very basic needs. But as we go up and up, the real need is self-actualization. And what is real self-actualization? They don't talk about it. We know from Bhagavad Gita, real self-actualization is understanding our true self. And that is to be connected to the supreme, the Bhakti Yoga, the Atma's connection with Paramatma. That is real self-actualization. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. That is real self-actualization. That person is not bewildered by all these things. So I really like this point also, and how it kind of integrates this. So just thought to share that. I know it's a little kind of close to our time, but I'm happy to hear some reflections, some comments, some additions anyone wants to say or correct or ask. Anything struck you? Anything you want to say? Yes, Anita Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have a question. I think so. Today we learned that Krishna fulfills our desire, right? But then we also learned that Krishna gives us only what is needed for us, not based on the desire. So, who are those two categories? Like one who is desiring and getting everything. So, who are those people? And then one like getting what is needed from Krishna. So, are those the people who have surrendered already and have been using, like, body, mind, intelligence? For those people, Krishna is giving what is needed. Is that
Yes,
understand?
very good question, and I think you answered your question. For those who are bahirmukh, those who want to do things their way, those who don't want to take shelter of Krishna. Oh, I want money, I want new job, I want new home, I want this big laundry list. Then Krishna will say, well, this is not the best thing for you, directly, indirectly, he'll say, but actually they don't even approach Krishna. They mostly approach the demigods, if they at all, or they approach their own self. I'm God. I don't need anyone. करके दिखाएंगे कर लो दुनिया मुट्ठी में. I'm God. I can do anything I want. Right? They don't even approach anyone, or they approach demigod, and then they may get their desires. Because demigod means you do the ritual, you get the result. Right? But those who take shelter of Krishna, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is mentioned. If one is take shelter of Krishna and if one is asking for these materialistic things which are not conducive to one, Krishna says, well, this child is fool. Ami Bigya. I am intelligent. I will give him the real stuff, the bhakti. And when he is right, I may give him the things he asks for also. As you said, Krishna gives not what we desire or not what we want, but what we need. The typical example, Dhruva. Dhruva was asking for a palace, a kingdom greater than his own great-grandfather Brahma. Did Krishna give? Yes, he gave. But before that, he gave him the real stuff, and that is pure bhakti, with which he can use that kingdom in the right way. Because Krishna is intelligent. If a child says, hey, I want chocolate, and then as a father or a mother, that this is not good for the child. If the child is obedient, you will not give. Rather, first you say, well, you first take care of your teeth, and if your teeth are good, then I'll give you in moderate quantity, right? But the uncle doesn't know what's good for the child. Uncle say, well, the child really is crying for chocolate. Let me give him and make him happy, right? So the uncle is referring to the demigods and the surrendered child. But if someone does not surrender, then like a very disobedient and child who thinks that the father and mother are the enemy may rebel against the parents, and ultimately what the parent will say, well, I don't really want you to suffer, but I've tried my hook and crook. You don't really want me to listen. You don't really want to listen to me. This will not be good for you, my child. I'm pained at my heart, but what to do? And like I can't I can't bind you. If you really, then you will suffer. I'm telling you, this will be bad for you. But then, yeah, some sure may do it, and then they may suffer, and then they may come. Oh, I disobeyed my parents and I'm suffering. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yes, Aparna Mataji, your comment or wanted to say something?
I agree with you that life will become blissful if we remain sublime and if we gain Krishna consciousness. But how can we just ignore this living in this material world? Living in material world is full of sufferings, I agree. But we can make it rejoiceful. We can heal this earth by doing certain charitable work. Of course, maybe I am wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I am having little knowledge about it, but still, what I feel like that.
No, that's your compassionate and soft heart, which really a devotee cannot see the pain of others. So, but before that, we have to understand what is real charity, correct? Charity of body, charity of mind, charity of soul. What is it? There are multiple levels of charity. Someone could see, well, these people are hungry, let me give them food. And then he starts to offer them meat, correct? So, without proper intelligence, even a so called pious act may lead to more bondage. So, we are not against charity. One must be charitable, especially Grihasthas, which applies to most of us here. One must be charitable, one must be soft hearted. Arjuna was charitable, Arjuna was soft hearted, Lord Chaitanya was charitable, showing when he was in the Grihastha ashram. He used to invite devotees at his home. So, the first step is to first equip ourselves with this knowledge, and practice it, and then try our best to share it by distributing food, right? Not just food, Krishna conscious prasadam, which is not just good for the body, it will heal the soul, right? It's a medicine for the soul. So we have to be far sighted.
Which world is best? This world full of sufferings or heaven where God lives?
God, there's a big question, where does God live, right? God is everywhere and God is in Goloka Vrindavan. So these are the multiple questions I think you're asking. A lot of, these all questions are great. So for a pure devotee, he's always Brahmabhuta Prasannatma. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bibhidyati swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulyata darshina. For them, they're always in Brahmabhuta Prasannatma state. For them, that nothing really matters whether they're in this world, in heaven or hell, or in back home, back to Godhead. They're always doing one thing, to please Krishna. Krishna, if you want me to be here, I'll be here. Krishna, you want me to be in heaven, I'll be there. You want me to in hell, I'll be there. You want me back home, back to God, I'll be there. I will continue to worship you, continue to serve you, birth or death, this life or that life, heaven or hell. That is bhakti. न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरि भवताद् भक्तिरहेतु कि त्वयि. Lord Chaitanya in text 4 of Sri Chaitanya Shrishtastakam is asking, is teaching us what we should ask for. Pure devotees don't even ask for going back home, back to God, or going to, what to speak of going to heaven. Our goal is not to go to heaven, because we learned in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka. We just read, heaven is short-term pleasure. Why we ask for short-term pleasure? We are looking for eternal happiness. And that is Bhakti Yoga. So, again, back to your first question. Yes, we should do charity, but in the right consciousness, with right knowledge to the right people, for the ultimate benefit of not just the bodily comfort, but the body, mind, and soul. Prabhupada, why did he come to New York? It's the most opulent place, right, by material standards. But people were suffering. Mother Teresa says, more than the hunger of the belly is the hunger of the soul. So people may be walking in tuxedos with laptops and briefcases, but they could be needing more charity of bhakti. And if those people understand the goal of life, they will have a better reach out to more potential people to solve the real problem of the world, which is lack of Krishna consciousness. And for that, we should try our best. So therefore, devotees do programs, home programs, temple programs, serve prasadam, serve cookies, and serve prasadam for the body, mind, soul, serve the holy name, because one who hears the holy names, one will get a higher birth, get chance to practice bhakti, and get rid of the cycle of birth and death. So we should not just see the symptomatic treatment. We should try to solve the problem from the root cause analysis, root cause. And the root cause is lack of Krishna consciousness. But so we heal the symptoms, we put the band-aid, but try to heal the problem from the root cause. So both are required in a nice way. Is it okay?
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much again. We are already a little over time. Just a quick reminder, tomorrow 8 a.m. we'll start the Bhagavad Gita quiz, and then 9 a.m. His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj will be giving a wonderful class about memorizing verses, and then we'll also be sharing the certificates with those who pass. So again, thank you so much for your wonderful association, time, and wonderful points, and your blessings. So I'm very, very grateful to all of you again. Thank you so much. Shri Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samveta Gaura Bhaktavinda ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you
Hare
so
Krishna.
much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna. Vanchakal
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Pranam Pavane
Hare
Bhyo
Krishna.
Vaishnavabhyo Namo.
Pure Vaishnava. Pure Namo.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.